Let's Ride was one of the songs performed by a young band from Norfolk called the Barry Lee Show. The year was 1970, and the cine camera being used to film the lads messing about on tour belonged to vocalist and bass guitarist Roger Reynolds. This was Roger's early effort at a pop video.
As you can see, it's sort of Beatlesque, almost. I was the one who always wanted to be on top of the pops. You know, there's something nice about being on top of the pops. Apart from everything else, it's just that if you have a successful record, it's there forever. Whereas you have later on we had some successful TV appearances, but once they're gone, they're gone. But with a record, it's there for immortality, if you like.
Roger's family ran a cycle shop and petrol garage in the small village of Briston in Norfolk. And when his father died, his mum still ran the pumps. It wasn't an obvious starting point for a career in entertainment.
I was only 14 when I had my first guitar.
Then, on his 14th birthday, he was bought a guitar by his sister.
This boy a superstar.
As soon as I got the guitar, I was away. I just started strumming, and I learned 3 chords in G, I think, and just those 3 chords I could do virtually 80% of the hit parade, if you like, and that was the beginning. I was away.
Roger joined up with lead singer Barry Lee, with Angus on drums and Michael and Tony on bass and lead guitar. In the early days, they were called Barry Lee and the Planets and performed locally at village halls, but they had big ambitions.
It was a hobby at first, and then when the Beatles and the Mersey Beat and all that hit, we thought, crikey, this is fantastic, and we wanted to be like them, and we wanted to be East Anglian Beatles. I suppose that was always on the back of our mind. I think we had about 10 single records, very much like this, the old acetate 45 record, and we were actually, our first record, we were at Abbey Road when the Beatles were making Sgt. Pepper's album. At the time, you just think, well, I know the Beatles are big then, but you never expect the Beatles to become the Beatles, if you follow me. So, and you know, we thought, well, we're going to be as big as them. We're making our record, and this is going to be as big, you know. So it was a bit like that.
But when their singles weren't a success, they changed their name, their act, and their look. They developed a comedy routine and became impressionists and entertainers.
I remember Michael one day saying, well, we need some publicity photographs. What are we going to do? So I said, well, I've got a camera. I took the photographs of the boys dolled up from the waist upwards, and hence the odd appearance.
Everybody knows my name.
The act worked, and in the late 70s, the brother Lees went on tour and were performing in some good company. They supported singer Engelbert Humperdinck and worked with Eurovision Song Contest winner Mary Hopkins. And Roger had his cine camera when he went on tour with the famous singer Johnny Mathis. But it wasn't performing live that brought them to a wider audience. It was television. The brother Lees did their triple impression act on Bruce Forsyth's The Generation Game.
One particular Generation Game was in '76. We had the Maxwell routine, and we had the Maxwell with the wigs and the black tights and the boots.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
And it was this lovely lady on, and she was a little bit large, which stretched the tights a bit, and made them a bit thinner than they should have been. But the funny is that we did the Maxwell walk, you know, the eccentric walk, and then we stopped.
Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Very good up to you.
All they had to say was good evening.
Good evening.
Came to her and she said, good evening.
Good evening.
Lower, lower. Lower. No, not that.
And Bruce said, lower, lower, lower. So she went, good evening. She crouched a bit lower and said, well, we just fell about. That was lovely. The fact that show was amazing. They were queuing up to see us, and you knew then that you'd registered.
By the 1970s, Roger had met and married a girl who knew all about show business. Roger's wife was a dancer.
Girl, I'm watching the spin, playing the big time, playing to win. Lady like smile.
They made a home together in Norfolk and became a family. When Ben was born, the advent of video meant he could be filmed watching his father on television.
It must have been a bit unusual. Daddy's not a policeman or a publican or whatever. He's actually works on stage and puts silly clothes on, so that must have been a bit strange for him.
Wasn't it good while it lasted? Wasn't it good?
But the 80s brought the recession and a dramatic change in television and entertainment culture. Variety vanished, and for Roger, work and home life were on a downward spiral.
It was the one night here, one night there, and the long periods away from home just put pressure on a marriage. And sadly, my marriage broke down sort of in the early 1990s.
Roger was approaching 50 when he decided to call it a day.
The most difficult thing is when you is deciding to pack up, is letting go of it. You know, you've done it so many years, and that's all you know, really. And I think my last show was down in a London hotel. Travelling back that night was really strange, and I think, well, that was it. I've done it, and but once I felt okay then. But it's just letting go. Once I let go, I was okay. Looking back on my cine films, it's almost like a different person. I felt I was young at the best time. I look back on that period with great love and great affection, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world.